Thank you for joining us today in episode 81 of the Pool Chasers podcast. As always, our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. Trade show season is in full swing, and that means so are our live tour stops. We'll be in Houston this week interviewing Matt Golke and Nick Day of Golke Pools. This is going to be a great conversation on how to get good employees and how to retain them once you have them. Next week, we will be in Atlantic City, and we will be interviewing PHGA President Sabina Hickman to hear all about what the future holds for PHGA and what that means to you. If you're going to be at these trade shows, we encourage you to join us for these live in-person interviews. Tickets are free. You can register by going to poolchasers.com/events or clicking the link below. Speaking of the live tour, on this episode, we had the chance to interview Rondo Pools in our hometown. We had an amazing time with everyone, and Bob and Kevin crushed it. There were so many great one-liners throughout the episode, and the crowd was really into it. They've been in the industry for over 37 years and are a staple in our community. We discussed their story and how the blizzard of 1978 brought them here to Arizona. Little did they know that building their own swimming pool would change their lives forever. We covered many great topics, but my favorite has to be how employees are a company's biggest asset and how treating them and the customers with respect is the only way to have continued success. This inspiring story is truly the definition of how a family business should be ran. So please enjoy this episode with Bob and Kevin Rondo of Rondo Pools.
Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Viafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
That was awesome.
Dude, that was totally unscripted. But I do it in the car when I'm listening to the episode, so felt like it'd be appropriate to do it here.
What's up, Arizona? Thanks for coming out to the hometown stop of the tour. You know, it's good to be surrounded by so many people we care about, been a part of the journey for us. So it's a live episode. Feel free to laugh, clap, interact with us if the opportunity arises, but we'll kind of just jump on into it. So thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to be on the episode with us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, ditto.
Can you kind of introduce yourself to the listeners and what you guys do?
Yes. My name's Bob Rondeau. I'm the founder of Rondo Pools along with my wife, Judy. And when Kevin asked me to join him in a podcast, my first question was, what's a podcast? So that'll give you an idea of when Rondo Pools started.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, he told me. Now I know what a podcast is, and I'm part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, and I am Kevin Rondo. I am the president and second generation owner of Rondo Pools.
Cool. Thank you. Guys, can I give him a round of applause for being with us? Appreciate it. So, Bob, you've kind of been in Arizona since 1979. You know, Kevin kind of told us you credit that to the 1978 blizzard for moving you guys out here. That's a pretty brutal storm. We kind of looked it up in some of those statistics. It was before we were born.
Yeah. They say the first cut's the deepest. You win.
But
anyway,
tell us kind of about that experience and, you know, why you moved out here to Arizona.
You're back in. I've always hated the cold. The cold, the snow, I've always hated it. I was born and raised in Lowell, Massachusetts. I hate the cold so much. When I joined the service, I was stationed in the mountains of Germany. And they made me sleep in a sleeping bag on top of the snow. And I said, okay, I'm done with this. And I asked to go, probably the only person in America that asked to go to Vietnam, but I needed to get out of the cold. So I ended up going there, and I came home and met my lovely wife of 49 years.
Congratulations.
And people ask me, well, how do you make it 49 years? And I said, well, you marry a woman with a short memory. But anyway, right after we were stuck in that blizzard for about 3 days, they wouldn't let us out of the house. They wouldn't let us drive on the road. So I finally said to my wife, I'm done. I'm never going to live another snowstorm. So we took a vacation here in July. No, it was April of 1979. A 10-day vacation. I bought a house. I got a job. In 10 days, we went back and put the house up for sale.
Wow.
So we moved here in July of 1979. And oh my God, we had never felt 110 degrees. We thought the van was on fire.
Well, you must have loved it, right?
Well, we stayed. And 35 years later, we're still here.
Well, there you go.
So that's how the transfers from Lowell, Massachusetts to Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
There
So
you go.
back to the blizzard. I mean, were you affected by it in any way? Was your home affected by
No,
it?
it was 3 or 4 feet of snow, but the fact that they wouldn't let us drive on the roads for 3 days because they had to plow the roads, it was one of the worst nor'easters, in decades.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like 33 hours of snowfall straight. Or
Yeah,
something.
that was the straw that broke my back.
Yeah.
They've got a few books out about how bad this storm was. I mean, this was so bad that there was no power or anything like that. So if you wanted to keep warm, you actually had to go in your car, start up the car, stay in your car, and people actually died from this because of the carbon monoxide.
monoxide.
Yeah, it was pretty
and
bad.
that's pretty crazy.
It was.
Yeah.
Killed about 100 people, 4,500 injured. I mean,
Wow.
that's a big one. So
You know more about it than I do.
well, that's what I get. You can thank Wikipedia for that.
There we go.
Well, sometimes people will say things and we type it in Google and nothing shows up, so we're not sure if it was real or not. But we typed that in the blizzard in Massachusetts, 1978.
Yep.
A million things popped up.
It was real.
So buy the books. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. So obviously you moved to Arizona. You
We did.
traded in the snowstorms for the sandstorms.
For the
'cause
heat.
we have those too. And you figure out real quick that you probably need a swimming pool. And you had Shasta, right? Build a pool.
Actually, what happened was we purchased a home that did not have a swimming pool, and I did what all other consumers do. I went out shopping for a pool. I got 3 or 4 bids, and I was introduced to Jim Lickenwalter in the Shasta's owner-builder department. And they sold me an owner-builder package where they would teach you how to build your own pool. So I went through that process, built my own pool, and had a lot of fun doing it. I'm a jack of all trades. I know a lot about construction, so it was a pretty simple process for me. So right after my pool was complete, I went and asked Jim for a job, and he gave me a job, and I started selling for Shasta Pools in their owner builder program.
So when you're building your own pool, are they showing you where to find different subs, or are you actually mixing concrete yourself? I mean, what goes into that?
Now, what they did is the program they sold was they did the plumbing, they did the steel and the shotcrete, and the excavation, and the rest of the pool was done by subcontractors. I would give the customer a list of 3 subcontractors to choose from, but what I found was that the homeowners weren't as good at building a pool as I was, so I became their coordinator.
So you like being the boss.
So I was pretty much building the pools for the homeowners. So after 2 years of doing that, I found that if I'm going to be building the pools for these homeowners, I might as well build it for myself.
Sure.
And we started a company called Pools by Rondo. And we used my name because I had plenty of people that knew me.
Yeah, because
So,
they called you the snake, right?
They called me the snake because when I back east, I worked for a number of different organizations where people didn't call you to buy your product. You had to go out and knock on doors. So I was accustomed to going out and knocking on doors. Excuse me. So every time somebody went out to a job site to do a presentation, you would either find my business card stapled to the 2x4. If you looked under the rock, I had a business card under there. So everywhere a competitive salesman went to, I'd already been there.
Nice.
So they gave me the nickname of the snake.
And you sold 102 pools your first year, right?
Actually, it was 182
Ooh.
swimming pools my first year, of which we dug 165.
Okay.
So
Kevin, you were wrong.
I was wrong.
You undersold that.
hard numbers to forget.
There's a little joke with that,
Yeah,
right?
but we do joke around that of the 185, at least 150 of them were Grecians.
16 by 32 Grecians.
Not the most creative designer out there, but a salesman, true and true.
What's a Grecian for those that don't know?
Grecian is a rectangular pool with rounded ends. And most of them were 16 by 32 Grecians. Matter of fact, in one day, I sold 3 swimming pools. All I did was took the template, laid it on a piece of paper, traced the deck, and said, "How do you like that?"
They must have liked it.
They liked it. 182
180.
people liked my Grecian pool.
And strangely enough, our swimming pool at our childhood home, 16 by 32 Grecian.
But it was a 16 by 36.
Oh, there you go.
Now, in my day, an upgraded swimming pool was on the back of the pool a 6-inch raised bond beam. So if you were to upgrade your pool in those days, it was a raised bond beam. That's all you got.
When did you switch the name? Because Rondo, Rondo, is not the way that you spell your guys' last name.
It's always been, we started off as Pools by Rondo, and our logo was, "We're not too big to care," because I was competing against the big boys. So that was my logo. But
Well, it's their fault, right? They taught you how to build the pool, and
they did.
they weren't prepared for that.
So we changed it from Pools by Rondo to Rondo Pools because as we started getting bigger and bigger, the Pools by Rondo logo was kind of passe. So we went to Rondo Pools. And the reason for the Rondo versus the Rondeau was nobody in the West Coast was able to pronounce Rondo. It's either Rondeau or Rondeau. Or nobody could seem to get Rondos. And even with that, most of the checks that we received was RHONDO because they thought we were Ronda.
You must get that a lot. Like, this was a typo, just too many vowels on the end.
It worked out well with the O.
Yeah. Very good. How'd you like that pool growing up, Kevin?
We loved it. It was everything that we would, a kid in Arizona would want. Diving contest, judge our dives. Remember that?
Yeah. Judge my dive.
How long before you started taking care of the pool? Did you ever do that?
No, I do remember when we were kids, our parents would give us, must have been like, a penny or a nickel a leaf. So we used to, I remember my brother and I like, okay, go clean the pool. This was, before we had chores, but like we went in there and dove down and grabbed, 100 leaves out of the bottom of the pool. They were paying us per leaf.
There you
so
go.
I do remember that.
That must have been the cleanest pool ever.
Right?
We believed in making them work for their allowance.
Yeah.
Being there with a strainer. Look what I caught, Dad, Mom. So, but you actually had another pool company prior called Heritage Pools?
Yes, Jim Lickwalter, who was the salesman that hired me at Shasta Pools, shortly after, about 2 years, Jim and I decided to go out in our own business together. I didn't want to do it alone. I just didn't have any business background. I didn't really feel confident enough to do it on my own. So Jim had all the construction knowledge, and I had the sales expertise, so we went out as a couple and started Heritage Pools. That lasted about a year, and then the partnerships, what I found was partners are for dancing or partners are for marrying, but not necessarily for business. So that separated. That's when I started Pools by Rondo.
Very good, very good. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about your background in, your worked as a painter, welder, floor finisher, carpenter, plumber, all these different things. And we just had a little conversation that it really helps when you start from the very bottom, because once you kind of, become a jack of most of those trades, it's so much easier to kind of jump into building pools.
Yeah, it truly helps if you have a construction background, which I had. I've done painting, I've done tile work, I've done pretty much everything you can think of in the blue-collar industry. So it was easy for me to show people that I knew what I was doing on the construction level. And being a New England boy, we are heavily into the trust and the handshake contracts. So
How'd that work out here?
It worked out very well because people just want to be taken care of. So just like all of us, no matter what you're buying, whether it's a service or a product, you just want a person that you can call and say, listen, I got a problem, can you help me? And that's what I believe was successful for Rondo Pools is take care of the customer. Take care of the customer the way you would like to be taken care of. If you do that, you will always have work.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. So curious, Kevin, how did you feel about your dad kind of starting the pool business and growing up in the pool business? How did you view that? Because, myself and Ty always think about our kids and kind of what they think about what we do. And, when they're kind of smart enough to put it together that they could either work for us or not, or whatever it may be. But we're just curious, what were your thoughts growing up in that environment?
Well, I didn't necessarily. I mean, I grew up as a typical kid in Arizona, soccer teams and baseball teams and Cub Scouts and all the fun stuff. It wasn't really until I went to high school, went to college, started going to college, and I went to college for business. And as any business degree, schooled person, you come in, you start realizing what businesses are, and your goal as a educated business major is to have your own business. So it wasn't until I was in college that I realized what my dad had done and what the business was. And once I got out of college, the goal of any graduate of a business school is like, well, I want to have my own business someday. And like, do I start my own business, or wow, look at this really amazing business that he's created. And it just made amazing sense to, I'm going to be part of this business and have a family business.
Right. And did you or your brother ever work for the company during summers or anything during school?
Yeah, my first experience was working, I think it was like my last summer of my junior and senior year of college. I really didn't get involved until then. My brother's a couple years older than me, so he was a year older than me in school. His senior year of college, I believe he was, worked as a superintendent and went to, kind of finishing up school. So my final summer, he's like, come back. We'll do startups over the summer. And that was my first experience, was the summer between my junior and senior year.
Right. And what's your involvement now in the company?
Well, now I'm the president. It's 24 years later. Things have changed greatly over that time. But started off from the beginning.
I mean, you kind of had all kinds of roles throughout the business, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of necessary, I think, to become president for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I credit my dad. I think he realized from the beginning, when my brother and I both expressed interest in being part of the family business, he knew that if he put us in any position of management or whatnot early, we wouldn't get the respect of the people that he worked with, the team. He put a great work ethic into us that we needed to start from the beginning. So my brother's first job in the business was as a startup tech. My first job in the business was as startup tech. So I worked, a couple years, starting up all our brand new pools, unclogging impellers, doing, getting the pools up and running, doing customer orientations. You got to start from the ground up. So, I'm proud that I was able to take that track through the business, doing the basics. I went from startup tech, and then when I finally, moved into the office, I worked in our processing department, working on, plans and permits and, getting the jobs ready for construction. I spent some time in the sales department. My brother, on a separate but equal track, was more so working on the construction side of the business. So he was startup tech to superintendent to construction manager. So we were kind of working together growing up in the company, but he was running the construction operations and I was working my way into the sales and operations side of the business.
Right. And he kind of split from the company not too long ago, right?
Yeah, surprisingly, it's was it 2012? So it's on 8 years now. It seems so. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, but yeah, 8 years ago he decided to move to Tennessee, and he's doing amazing work in Tennessee.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're so proud of him.
It's Rondo Pools, Tennessee, or Nashville. Rondo Pools, Nashville.
Yeah, he's in the outskirts of Nashville, Brentwood. What's the county? Franklin County.
Very good. And he's liking it out there?
Yeah, he loves it out there.
Well, I'm sure the competition is completely different than it is here in the Valley.
Oh, it's night and day. It's night and day.
Yeah, very good.
I mean, from both your perspectives, I mean, working with your father and your son can be difficult. I mean, our dad here in the audience, and I don't, no offense, but I don't know if I could work every single day side by side with him. So, how was that kind of relationship, and what do you feel?
Well, I
Don't
never,
throw anything. You can't see anything up here.
See, tomatoes microphone.
like your dad, I never wanted my kids to come into my business. I thought that my business was my business, and I sent them to college so that they could go on and do their dreams. Stephen specialized in law enforcement, and Kevin was business management, and I wanted them to stay away. So the wife and I, Judy, we made them work for other people. We had Kevin working at a golf course. We had Stephen working at retail establishments, and said, stay away, do your own thing. This is my thing. But as time went on, they inched their way in, doing little startups, doing little service calls. And what I found was that they became my cheapest and most valuable employees over time. So I would have to give them, every year I'd give them a little bonus and a little bonus and a little bonus. And as they grew into the company, it became management. And again, I wanted them to start at the bottom of the rung, because employees are not going to accept the boss's children as their boss. They have to work it. And I've always said, power is taken, power is not given. So it took them some years, but they took the power and they took over management to the point where I became useless. They became more valuable than I. And at that point in time is when I decided it was time to turn it over to them. And I went out to pasture and attempted to retire, which didn't last very long.
So why didn't you want them being a part of the business?
Because I felt that this was my thing, not their thing. And I wanted them to do or fulfill their own dreams. And I guess their dream was to take over my business.
That's a good dream.
And that's what they did.
For me, I mean, working with my family, I consider myself extremely lucky. My brother and I, we're 2 years apart, just a little 22 months, share under 2 years. We grew up fiercely competitive, as two boys that are close probably are. Everything was a competition. I said judge our dives because it was a diving competition every night that our parents had to judge. I wouldn't say that we were the best of friends because we were always competing against each other growing up. It wasn't until I left for college that we found, an appreciation for each other. You're like, wow, I got a brother. Like, hey, what's up, brother? Like, you go from seeing your brother every day, and he was the typical older brother picked on his younger brother kind of guy. So it wasn't until we had that separation that it was like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's up, brother? So coming out of college and growing up and kind of doing our separate paths to the company, I really enjoyed working with him. Like we were the yin and yang. He was construction. Our personalities fit well together. He's a little bit more impulsive, extremely smart. I'm a little bit more reserved with my decision making. The things that we bounced off each other were great. So I really enjoyed that time, and having my dad as my mentor, I couldn't be any more lucky. From 1996 when I graduated college and started to 2004 when we ultimately, over that 8-year period, went from a startup kid to, really running the operations of the company, and, dad wanting to retire. It was a 8-year period where we went from, just starting to my brother and I taking over the family business and buying the parents out. So I consider myself extremely lucky to be able to work with family and have such a great relationship doing it.
Yeah.
And for those parents that are listening and you have children that are constantly fighting, it gets better, but not till they're in their 30s. Sorry.
Our passion to seek pool industry knowledge and being able to share that knowledge with you is the reason we started Pool Chasers. Turns out Pentair has several ways for you to gain knowledge as well. Take, for example, the Pentair Master Service Program. This is a program designed to recognize dealers, service technicians, and other pool professionals for completing desired training modules. It gives you the tools you can use to troubleshoot Pentair installations in the field and become a master of Pentair product knowledge. Be rewarded for educational activities designed to enhance your Pentair knowledge as you move through the certification levels. With 3 levels to work through, becoming a certified Pentair professional has never been easier. It's training that rewards you and your business. But the real value comes from building your confidence in the field to ensure the customer loyalty you need to keep your business growing. We encourage you to check this out, so to become a certified Pentair professional today, visit pentairpartners.com or click the link in the write-up below. So I remember actually when we went to Arizona in like 2005, and I did a lot of stuff around kind of Phoenix First area. And I mean, driving up Cave Creek and seeing Rondo, I remember seeing Rondo forever. I mean, before we had anything to do with pools. So it's cool to see that location with the pool and the waterfalls, and you know, it's a cool transition from now until then, because I had nothing to do with pools, you know, back then. So
It's pretty distracting.
yeah, a little
Has
bit.
there ever been any accidents in front of the...
Oh, absolutely.
Do you guys run out there with flyers like, hey, 50% off?
It's actually a pretty scary corner. It's like one of the most well-traveled streets in town.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
the data, I guess, when they calculate, traffic, it's a hugely traveled street. And that corner, in my time, I've seen, several, one fatality and several accidents.
Then you turn on the Rondo, like truck towing service or something. It's like, we got you.
Neon signs.
Yeah, the reason for that location was when I first started the business, I was very, very strongly commercial marketplace, which did not require a lot of advertising. You didn't need another FaceTime. Most of the bids were done commercially. So when the commercial market dove, my wife and I decided that our lead flow was lacking, business was going down, and we had to have a face to the public. So Cave Creek Road, with the extreme high traffic load, was a perfect location for the residential market people to know that we existed. So that was really the reason for the purchase of that location, was just to get our residential market going.
Did it work?
It did very well. Yeah, it worked.
Whose awesome idea was it to put Christmas lights up over there?
Yeah, Judy Rondo.
That was my wife's idea, to put that up. And we actually had a Santa Claus that one of my employees had made, and we had him hanging over the pool in midair diving.
Oh, that's awesome.
Honest to God. And unfortunately, one year somebody stole Santa.
Oh.
And at that time, our sign had an ability to put up verbiage. So we had a verbiage of, somebody please recover stolen Santa. We actually made the newspaper advertised that Rondo Pools Santa Claus has been stolen. Please,
But that's pretty
replace
low.
him. Yeah, it's very low.
Jump the fence to steal baby Jesus.
No, they stole Santa Claus.
Yeah. I would have told the newspapers baby Jesus.
And that's
Bring it
good
back.
publicity. Are you sure you didn't take it yourself?
No, we got publicity, but we didn't do it.
Yeah, I think we've been at that location since 90, thereabouts, 1990.
80.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know, to be honest with
of the 37 years now we've been in business, we've been in that location for about 30.
Yeah.
And the Christmas light idea that my mom started back then it's probably the most effective advertising that we've ever had. We keep it going, to her tribute and to how successful it is. There was a time that it got a little crazy. Like, so we had diving Santas. We had one whole building that we would make a gingerbread house out of. Candy canes with PVC pipes. I mean, you name it. We had it all over our property. But it's been dumbed down a little bit over the years. But every year, my amazing staff, it's the middle of November, come out on a Saturday. We got 20 or 30 people out there putting up Christmas lights. Everyone really enjoys it. They know the tradition of it and the history of it. And everyone really appreciates it and takes value in it. So it's a fun tradition that we keep alive.
Very cool. And that's probably a good team building experience
Oh,
as
for
well
sure. For
everybody to get together, because it's funny how service business or you build pools or whatever, you don't get to see each other too much. Like the whole entire team getting together, it's usually just the Christmas parties, and I guess that's pretty cool that they're doing something for you and they're getting to hang out. But yeah, good team building.
Justin, can J-Max make us candy cane? I got it. Yeah? Yeah? Can we get some PVC candy canes? All right.
How long have those pools been there?
Yeah, we had
Ones on property.
Yeah, we had the original pool. When we got there in probably 1990. But in I want to say 2000, we decided that it was an old free-form pool. It had we added a negative edge at some point. It was a short little negative edge, and we're like, it's kind of really getting dated. Had the what's the bullnose cantilever?
Yeah, for those of us who are old,
tile trim, like a lot of real 70s, 80s dated pool kind of concept. So
it was a Tradewinds T3B. Ooh. For those of us that used templates in the old days before CAD was invented.
So I think it was 2000 or 2001. We said, let's do it. We demoed out the entire front of the house, everything out of the front, and we built what we have now as our pool park. But it was a 3-tiered water feature on the left side of the walk-up. We had a negative edge pool with which at the time was really advanced thinking. The 360-degree zero-edge spa, which is super popular right now. But that's been in our display pool for going on 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's very zen-like.
Yeah,
Because I went to visit the other day and I never been there, but it's kind of compact a little bit. So you got the running waterfall and the negative edge and all that cool stuff. And you
with
can
the
just
waterfall, we would a 25 square foot, 30, 40, 50, so people could see the different size waterfalls. We tried to just bring as many different materials as we could to show everything that we could.
Right.
And the second generation took away my time clock and put in a computer system. And now I can't work anything.
Did you have to figure that out the hard way?
I still.
It was a late night. You had to walk around.
Not figured it out yet.
Where's the time clock?
Where's my time clock?
And in 2001, we won back in the day the NSPI, but International Design Awards on both the pool and the water feature pool. So we won both of our pool projects up front are NSPI International Award winners.
Nice.
Congrats.
Yeah.
So tell us kind of the transition, of Rondo, throughout the years and through the peak years and the down years, and can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, you started
Everything.
My wife and I started it in 1983 in one of our small bedrooms. And eventually we grew to the living room, which was a little bit bigger than the bedroom. And then we hired a couple of employees. And unfortunately, when you hire employees and you're working out of your house, guess who stays for dinner every night?
But your employees were your kids, right?
No, they were outside employees. So after
I was like 10 or 12.
after my wife having to feed the employees dinner, we decided it was time to move out of the house, and we rented a small office on Bell Road. And we got bigger and bigger and bigger. We went to 2 offices, then 3 offices, then 4 offices, all tied together. And then eventually we went to Rondo Pools on Cave Creek Road, and been there ever since. So we've gone from a very small mom and pop operation to, what do we have, 30 full-time employees now?
Yeah, 35.
Yeah, 35. So
But you got up to 45, right? With in the peak season before the
I'll
economy
let you
hit?
pick it up there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, the office being in the living room of our house. It was unique. I remember at one point in time, my dad built just a plywood, basically blocked in a door. Didn't want to put in a door, so just put it in plywood because he was sick of the employees coming to the kitchen. Kids are having lunch in the afternoon in the summer, and he's got employees coming into the kitchen. So it was a unique experience seeing it in the house. But when I joined the company and graduated from college in '96 and joined the company, we were top 10 builder. Had been kind of a top 10 builder for many years. Past then, for the previous decade, the industry was building 10 to 12,000 pools a year, and we were doing about 300 pools. Wow. So it was pretty consistent run from 1996 until the early 2000s, and I was learning the business, and I think we kind of were very consistent about our numbers. And then obviously the housing boom happened, from 2000, call it 1 to 2005 or 6. The industry went from 10 to 12,000 pools a year up to 25,000 pools in a 5-year span. My brother and I, this is the period of time where we were kind of getting to the operations and construction manager positions in the company just prior to the buyout. We were like, wow, the industry's really exploding. We're going to grow. We're going to, at the time, the big guys, the Shastas and the Paddocks were doing 2,500, 3,000 pools a year. We're going to grow the company too. We're going to, build 400, 500, 600 pools a year. I think our biggest year in 2005, we sold over 500 and built, high 400 pools. And we brought in some some management from some of the big companies to help us systematize the company and, create, production policies. And we're going to grow this thing. And then obviously the recession happened. Everything kind of came to a halt. And from 25,000 pools per year in 2005 to 3,000 pools per year as an industry just a couple of years later, it was extremely humbling.
Right.
And this was, like I said, we bought the company from my dad. My dad had retired in 2004. Said, I'm going to go do something. And, obviously, he the heat of those 500 pools, he's like, I've had enough. I can't be part of this. This is your guys' ship now. You guys steer it. We were growing and making our own decisions, and he went off to retirement. Well, the entrepreneur he is didn't do very well in retirement. Had a couple pet projects. He built a amazing 62 Vet, restored his old college, or post-Army cool single guy car, built a spec house, did some projects, but it was perfect timing that as we started to okay, we really need to restructure the company, and how are we going to manage our company during the recession? He's like, let me come in, let me be your mentor. And he really was a extremely valuable mentor during those times where we had to make really difficult decisions, over, the next, handful of years to manage the company. We went from, probably 45 or 50 employees at the peak, and we're growing, and this is what we're going to do with our company, to, I think at our lowest point, we were down to, 15, 16, 17 employees.
I'm going to say, what were some of those difficult decisions that you had to make?
Your most valuable asset are your employees, and having to lose some very key people because we couldn't afford to keep them on because there wasn't enough sales to produce the money to keep them on. That was probably the most traumatic part of downsizing, is losing your people. Canceling leases on buildings and canceling leases on cars is a very easy thing to do, but when you're affecting people's lifestyle, it's a very difficult thing to do. So that was the most traumatic for us, was losing our people.
Yeah, 100%. There was, when we were growing, there was a lot of people that I considered, back in hindsight, I consider like my dad's people. Us coming into the company, they were there before me. They're extremely valuable people. When you're growing, we had 6 superintendents, and we started just, what do we need to cover all this stuff? People, you're like, okay, well, we're starting to lose people that had only been with us for a short time. But once you start getting into the people that, like, these people had been with the company longer than I had. They had given their, a decade or more to my dad in growing the company with him. Those are extremely tough people to let go. And like, hey, we don't want to do it, but unfortunately we have to. And those are the lessons that I learned during that time that were the toughest lessons and the most important lessons as a business owner.
Were you ever able to hire some of those people back once you kind of, got back on track?
I would say yes. Matter of fact, it wasn't but 3 weeks ago that we hired back a gentleman that left us 15 years ago.
Oh, really?
And even though he's been gone 15 years, he said the worst decision, and him and his wife admitted, was leaving Rondo Pools. And now that he's back, he feels like he's home. And it's like I have one of my children back.
Oh,
even though it's now his child, but
That's all right.
so yes, to answer your question, yes, we've hired quite a few of them back.
That's cool.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and the transition, from the recession, as we've grown our company back, and as the industry in general has recovered, I think last year we did, somewhere in the range of 9,000 pools. So we're getting back close. Yeah, as an industry, I think we're getting back really close to the level that we, sustained for a decade before the crazy boom and the crazy fall. But in general, that number is, and the number of pools that we're building is getting pretty close to where we were.
That's cool. How do you think you guys survived? What kind of lessons did you learn, or what kind of advice could you give maybe for, keeping your business or steadying your business to take on something like that?
I personally, the biggest lesson I learned over that time, so as we start growing the company back and, progressively going from, what I think we were down to, under 100 pools. In this last year, I think we sold 250 pools. So we're getting back to where we were. The lesson I learned is the company I want to be isn't necessarily the thoughts that I had as the industry was growing. There was a point in time I was like, oh, I want to be, we're going to grow this. My dad mentioned earlier that his motto when he started the company was not too big to care. That is something that I, in retrospect, really respect, because there's a lot of really good people in this industry, and there's a lot of people who just want to build as many pools as they possibly can. I've done high volume, and honestly the peak years, the 2005 when we did 500 pools, that was my least favorite time building. I think most builders would probably say the same thing. There was the shotcrete shortages, and I think it took 6 months to build your average pool, and not many customers were happy. I had a customer complaint spreadsheet that, just making, if people wanted to, call and talk to the owner. I remember putting out emails asking for customers' patience and time because of the shotcrete shortages. And it's not a fun experience, even though that you're selling a lot of pools and you're building a lot. If your day-to-day of making your customers happy, you're not feeling that as the owner, you don't think your company's doing a good job making your customers happy, it's not fun to do it. So what I learned from going through that is the company that I want to have and the company I want to maintain is one that manages. I know that, where we are now, I'm not interested in growing more and being bigger. I'm interested in, really doing a better job and really enjoying the process. We have a really great team and we're doing amazing projects. And it's, how can we, maintain this and even get better at the experience that we're giving our clients and the products that we're delivering, and just enjoying the process that we're doing.
We want to thank A&A Manufacturing for supporting the show. A&A prides itself on being the only family-owned and made in the USA in-floor cleaning company. With the industry constantly adapting as new technology comes out, energy efficiency and variable speed is all everybody is talking about. A&A has taken a step in that direction as well with the latest technology and cleaning system that can be used with the pool equipment you are already installing. Their Venturi system requires half of the energy usage than a traditional cleaning system. Whatever market you're in, A&A can provide a cleaning system that is right for you and your customer. Their global support team can help you in any phase of the in-floor design and build. To inquire more about their products or to reach out to your local salesperson, you can contact them at 1-800-851-8492 or by going to aamfg.com. That's aamfg.com, or clicking the link in the write-up below. Make sure to mention Pool Chasers for a special limited time discount.
Yeah, I'm going to say process one more time because it seems like you guys do have like good processes in place. What does that look like from when, pool gets, completely built? Do you guys have a service team that's taking these on and doing startups? What all? Because you have subs. You don't have people in-house doing stuff. Right?
Yeah, it's subcontractor built. The thing with Arizona, every market we've realized over decades in the industry, markets are different. Arizona is so competitive and it's so high volume that it's a subcontractor based industry. In retrospect, my brother, who's building a quarter or less of the volume that we're doing, they don't have the subcontractor based industry. And he's not, he just doesn't have the people to rely on. So he's got to bring a lot of that labor in-house. So in Arizona, it's a real strong subcontractor base. And we have, the key in building here is finding the really good trades, the ones who really value the quality of work that they're doing and want to, contribute to these projects. There's probably 1 in 10 trade in each phase, so to speak. 1 in 10 companies, I think, can deliver the quality and value that I'm looking for. It's just there's, like I said, the 9,000 pools built. We're going to do 200, 250. That means there's 8,700 pools being built by dozens and dozens of companies. So it's really finding the guys who really want to do the quality of work that we want to do.
Right. And with that, better subs are going to cost more money. They're going to have sort of a premium service, so you're going to have to charge more as well. And I know you talked about that on the forum. How is it dealing with, having to charge more for pools? Because there's a lot of people out probably doing it for half the price.
Yeah. Our industry is, I understand it's a very supply-demand ratio. Arizona is, the most, the biggest pool market in the country. We have 110-degree summers. It started way before I was in the industry, and people want volume, and in some industries the way to get volume is to bring down costs. But I remember in the the late 90s when I joined the industry, 15,995 specials, 20 square foot waterfall, 2 boulders, 20 or 30 lineal feet of roll bomb beam. From that time, and even probably my dad's days, I think you had probably $6,500 pools.
I guess the industry has come a long way. In my day, all of the old timers, many of them had egos that just were too big for themselves. And they were more into, I want to be the biggest. I want to sell the most. I want to be the big boy. So there was a lot of sales events going on just to produce the number of permits. It was all about the numbers. I want to be the top guy. And a lot of the smaller builders weren't into that ego trip. We were more into taking care of the customer and building a quality pool. So as an old timer, if I was to tell the younger generation starting a business, you've got to care about what you're doing. If you don't really care on the inside, you're not going to produce anything of any value. If you're going to hire people, you need to hire people based on the inside that they care about what they're doing. People say to me, well, you've worked there for 40 years. And I say, you know what? I haven't worked a single day in the last 40 years. I get up in the morning, I go do my thing. I care about what I'm doing. The customers know I care. Because if you care, you're going to return that phone call. If you care, you're going to go do that service call. If you care, everything happens as long as you care. If you don't care, you're not going to have a good company. So my suggestion to any new employee or employer, go down to your heart. If you care about what you're doing and you're enjoying what you're doing, everything's going to turn out just fine.
Thank you. That's powerful stuff right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of really, I like to see, just even, through social media and Instagram, there's a really great group of builders in Arizona and across the country that are really raising the level of the quality and the, imagination of what we're doing in the industry.
Of their pictures or the?
Yeah, I mean, like
their pools.
Their pools. The images that they're sharing.
I'm just messing.
Yeah. But going back to the comment about like the 15995 special, that's an Arizona thing that it's entrenched. People are looking for those permit counts. Unfortunately, in our industry in Arizona, everyone is driving for the volume, so the margins are as small as we can get them. People are more focused on how we can build it cheaper so we can, get more business. Where it's a bad relationship, if we can find ways to build it better regardless of cost, if the industry in general raised its level, I don't think that pool companies should be, putting. I view our industry as a luxury product. Unfortunately, in Arizona, it's such a staple that you're seeing these advertisements in the Clipper magazine and the Savvy Shopper and in mailings. We shouldn't be side by side with your Barro's Pizza. To you get
cut this out, send it in, get you a pool for
that. But that's where the industry's gone there. It's get your, people move into a house, they're like, oh, I need to get garage cabinets, I need to do epoxy on my floor, and I need to do a pool, and I get all that information from the Clipper magazine I got in the mail. That's just Arizona for you, and there's a lot of builders just trying to capitalize on anybody and everybody who wants to, put a hole in their backyard with water in it, and that's a real thing. But the unfortunate is all that price being driven down makes it hard for us to be able to staff our businesses well enough. There shouldn't be, and there's some of the big guys are having, one superintendent run 30, 40 pools at a time because you don't have the margins to have a superintendent be more involved. Even it trickles down to the subcontractor base where they can't charge the prices that they would need to charge to be able to, have more crews and, do a better job. I would like to see our industry focus on how we can do it better and raise the value. I'm jealous of my brother, and, he moved out to Tennessee. Like I said, the industries are different regionally and nationwide. There seems to be a much higher respect for the value of the product he's putting in on these homes. These are beautiful homes. There's a lot of great architecture and properties in the Nashville area, and he comes in, and what he's adding to their homes is like, wow, they're so excited, and he's esteemed. What'd you say? He's got a 9-month wait list on people wanting him. He'll talk to a customer and say, listen, I'm going to take a design deposit, but I'm 6 or 9 months out on being able to start any new projects. And here, if you're not digging in 2 or 3 weeks, people are like, oh, no way. Right. So I'm jealous of the fact that he's in a market where it has more respect and a higher value and esteem for the product he's doing. And I think the way that we market and bring our product to the market here in Arizona is a direct relationship of how the customer looks at our product.
Right. And you guys do I know this wasn't one of the questions, but you guys do a good job of educating the customer on what it's going to take on maintaining the pool for sort of the test of time. Because, a lot of times, they think that this pool is just going to take care of itself because of all the, auto chem feeders and automation where you can control it from your phone and, the in-floor cleaning system or the vacuums. Just too many times you get back there and it's like, oh, shouldn't be too much, be here in and out. But just overseeing all the technology that goes into making that pool run is still quite a bit of work.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with our suppliers. Our suppliers are the innovators of the industry. Variable, in my day, we had a pump and a time clock. Today we have variable speed pumps, we have computers. So the industry will only improve as our suppliers supply us with improved goods. And it's our job as a company to inform the consumer of all of these improvements in the industry and to let them know that there is a value to these improvements. And you have to pay for those improvements. You have to pay for that value. If I was to talk to all the salesmen listening to us today, stop selling price. Start selling value. Start selling the improvements that the industry is offering you.
Right. And how often were you educating your team on the updated pump or the updated, whatever's coming out?
We're lucky enough to have our suppliers come in and willing to teach our salesmen what the innovations are in the industry.
Very cool. So you guys have had, obviously, great sex in the, great. What is on my mind right now?
I thank my wife, Judy,
Thank
for
you.
that.
That's it. Good night. Drop the mic. I've said worse on this mic. If you listen to the episodes. It's so funny because the next question is, if you could go back and change one thing, what would it be? For me, it would be not to have said what I just said. Oh, I love you, Karina.
I think every human being can look back on their life and want to make some changes. I don't think we need to advertise what those changes would be.
Oh, man. So obviously you guys have been through a lot, and there was, some things you had to learn the hard way. What are some things that you really would go back and change?
I don't necessarily have a lot of changes that, the things that I value the most that I've learned over the time of running the company is realizing that it's the people that I work with that definitely make what I do and what we do as a company work. I value. I have some really key people that I've had for. I kind of look back, take a step back. As we came out of the recession, I said a lot of the employees before that were kind of on my dad's team, so to speak. As we grew our company out of the recession, they felt a little bit more like my team. It was the team that I grew as we came, and it was my company and my brother's company before he left. These are the key people that I think I value the most, and are the I don't say I wouldn't change anything, but I would definitely not want to lose some of these people. I got Dave Wilson, who's been my construction manager for over 15 years. I couldn't be doing what I do without him and helping manage the work that we do. Terry Millsap, who is part of my management, accounting, operations management side of thing. She manages everything that runs through the company. $18 million in sales, the numbers that run through the company. I couldn't do it without her. I got Steve Anderson in my sales department. My dad mentioned Pete Renslow, who was my construction manager back from the late 90s to the early 2000s, and I'm lucky enough to have him come back and join the team and run my processing team. So it's really the people is what I've learned is the biggest valuable asset that I have that I can't lose.
100%.
I will tell you what I would change. And
Here we go. Get ready.
I guess the most important thing I would change going back in my youth is going back to the appreciation of employees. My wife tried to knock this into my head for years, but I would say for the first half of my business life, I would simply say, I'm giving you a paycheck. That's what I'm paying you to do. Just go do it. And my wife would tell me, people are not motivated by money. They're motivated by appreciation. And I didn't appreciate my people enough in my early years. And my wife did, and thank God she was there, and she was the mother of the company. And even though I was the hard ass, they would go to her as the mother, and she would smooth it all out. But I learned over the years that she was right, I was wrong. It's about people, not how much I pay them.
That's
But
powerful.
it's the appreciation of them.
Because they love Christmas time. They're like, see how your wife does? They build giant gingerbread houses and Christmas lights.
For a guy that's never heard of a podcast, I mean, he's killing it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I know. Well, all kinds of one-liners.
Trying to talk from the heart here.
Very good. So we usually ask if there's any books or podcasts that you would recommend, but, not too much of that. So
There is one book.
you got
There's a book that I would recommend. They really should have it in grammar school and high school and college, and I have read that same book 10 times. And I guarantee if you read it, you will get something out of it. It was by Dale Carnegie. Yes. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I swear to God, it changed my life.
yes.
I swear to God, it's in my truck right now.
That is seriously one of the best books ever.
Of all time.
Yeah.
Agreed.
without a doubt.
100%.
Yep.
So, I mean, what about you, Kevin? Do you have any books or podcasts
I don't
you
have
suggest?
books, but you're going with it is the biggest impact. The one person that had the biggest impact on me is this guy sitting right next to me. I am extremely lucky to have my dad as my mentor, and the work ethic that he has, and I see the respect that people have for him. He is. They say they didn't make two of him. They threw away the mold when they made him, and I respect him. I respect his knowledge. I respect his work ethic. He's his problem solving and the amount of work that he does and what he does and the effect that he has on the people around him is fun to watch. And I try to live up to live up to what he's done to his example. Thank you. So he's my mentor, and he's my the person that I try to be.
Very cool. It's a great way to end it. So,
Cool.
thank you guys for being on with us. Appreciate you again, your time.
Appreciate the invite. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Real quick before we wrap up, kind of wanted to thank you all for coming. A lot of you in here are some of our close friends and our family in the front rows. We couldn't do without you, so thank you. And especially our wives, Megan and Karina, couldn't be here, but without you three, we couldn't do any of it. So we appreciate you guys. It lets us travel and support and everything you do. Also want to thank the Rebel Lounge for having us here, Pentair, ANA for supporting us and being here. ANA, there you go. Can we make this blue? We gotta put water in it, right? So thank you guys for supporting us. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Kyle, for setting up everything.
Good job, Kyle.
So we're gonna take some pictures by the banner, and we brought some Sharpies. If you guys could sign it, that'd be really cool. So we could put up in the studio. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guests or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/poolchasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, pool chasers.